Welcome to the Tech Ranch, live and local here on Super Talk 1270. The latest gadgets, online security, websites and apps, social media, and so much more. How can technology help you? Let's find out. It's time for the Tech Ranch on Super Talk 1270.
From our studios in beautiful Mandan, North Dakota, along the mighty Missouri River, here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
So how has social media changed your life? Today we'll share some tips and tricks on that topic. And then later in the show, Miss Metaverse, Katie Aquino will be live from the New York Institute of Technology at the Creating STEAM Conference. So expect to hear the latest in robotics and 3D printing coming from the New York Institute of Technology. Of course, at the control panel, recovering from an exuberant Independence Day celebration, our very own producer, Jim Walsh. So, Jim.
Yeah. Hi there.
Are you recovered yet?
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I'm getting there.
Wow. Nothing like having the 4th of July on a Saturday.
Well, you know, I don't want to say it was an ordeal because it was a very positive experience. I had a lot of fun.
Good.
But I was actually in the parade twice.
Yes, you were.
I was. You had me driving the lead car for the classic cars.
Right.
And then I had to circle around and join in the convoy for the Town Square Media vehicles.
Right. And
which was actually, the second time was... It was easier in a sense because I was not the lead, so I could just follow the lead car and not have to worry about pacing myself.
Sure. And I bet, of course, you started the day very early. I think you even joined us, about 6:30 in the morning?
6:30 in the morning, yeah.
So, yeah. So for those of you who are listening across the country and around the world, of course, Mandan, North Dakota is where the show is based out of. And we have a rather large Independence Day celebration here, don't we?
We do, very much so.
I mean, we have a
in the town of Mandan, which is kind of like the sister city to Bismarck, right across the river.
Right. And, of course, I think our population is about 20,000 now, probably triples during the morning of the 4th. I mean, it's significant, the amount of people that show up in our small town for a couple hours. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we also have the traditional baseball game between Bismarck and Mandan.
Yeah.
In the afternoon. And, of course, the rodeo and the fireworks at night. And just to give people a perspective, the state of North Dakota is 125 years old. We'll be 126 this November.
Yeah.
The parade or the rodeo is 136 years old.
So the rodeo was here before this was a state.
Yes. Yeah. And same with the parade. The parade is 134 years old. So has a lot of tradition here. And
back in the day.
And the reason that we're talking about all of this is I just want to give people a perspective because we're going to be moving into social media and how things have changed a lot. So 136 years ago, Jim, how do you think people got the word out that there was going to be a rodeo tonight?
I don't know. Smoke signals? You got me.
Well, I mean, they had the printing
town
press.
crier, yeah.
Yeah, so I would imagine that it was a big deal in the paper. I mean, that was everybody at that time read the newspaper. That was the way you were informed. And I would imagine that posters of some kind were probably a very big deal then as well. I mean, we've all seen movies where posters go up on every fence post and everything else because that's how you notified people about things.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth. Big deal as well. And now people who are millennials, people who are, that 25 and under group, have no idea what we're even talking about.
Yeah.
Because everything they get is on their computer and probably on their smartphone.
Well, I think it's all an extension of word of mouth anyway.
That's an interesting analogy.
Yeah.
Go ahead and expand on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, twittering. They want to call it twittering, do they?
Tweeting.
I keep wanting to call it tweaking, but that's something else entirely.
It's a special
and it's definitely not twerking.
Yes.
It's tweeting.
Tweeting.
Well, what is tweeting but just passing a message along to somebody?
And so is Facebook, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, you think about how we've gone from printed media to audio, radio when it first came out, right? And then, of course, we had audio recordings. We moved into television and the moving pictures and that type of thing. And it seems like when we went into the computer age and started messaging people, all of a sudden we're typing again.
Yeah.
It is interesting, isn't it?
It is indeed.
The number one way that we communicate in this world is by typing. It's unbelievable. You'd think that, with new technology.
We've come full circle in 100 years.
We have. Absolutely, we have. The only difference is that it's not mass media anymore. It's individual communication, and that's the big deal. So.
Yeah, the nature of communication. I mean, guys like McLuhan would have a field day with this.
They would.
Because it's no longer a case of broadcasting by its definition. You have one person casting out the information to a wide audience.
Right. And
that's not really, it's kind of the opposite now. It's like narrowcasting.
Yes.
It's one person receiving information from a whole bunch of different sources.
Yep. And even when you're broadcasting yourself, via Facebook or Twitter, it's just to a select group of people.
Yeah.
That and they have to have liked you or follow you. I mean, they have to be engaged with you.
And not blocked you. I was blocked over the weekend. I'm so proud.
Really?
I got into a, what should we call it? Let's call it a urination match with a guy in my old hometown.
Okay.
And I don't really know this guy very well, and I kind of regret it, but the guy's a jerk anyway.
Okay.
And he blocked me, and I felt really guilty about it for about an hour, and then I got on with my life.
Sure. Blocked on Facebook? Okay. Yeah, well,
so I've been blocked.
And
I suppose I should be proud of myself.
That is one of the things that, one of the tips and tricks to social media is that, if you don't
try not to get a lot of people to block you.
But if you don't like what somebody's saying, maybe you don't believe, maybe you don't want their particular politics showing up on your timeline and things, you can just block these people.
Well, that's what I've been doing a lot of lately. I've been, first of all, I've been unfriending a lot of people who I never hear from, correspond with. Not because I don't like them. The point is I don't know them. Over the years, people ask you to be their friend and you don't know them. But okay, no problem. I'll see how that works out. And then you never hear from them again.
Right.
So I'm just trying to clean out the cachet, I suppose.
Yep.
And I'm especially getting rid of a lot of the people who never do anything but repost political junk.
Right.
Because I'm really burned out on politics.
Well, and I think, and I agree with you, I'm in the same boat. In fact, we have political overload the way I feel anyway.
Yeah.
And it really does get tiresome after a while when you turn on your social media and all it is just a stream of political messages there.
Yeah. Very divisive, very, I hate the kind of thing where they say, well, I think what you stands for is the root of all evil.
Right.
What?
Right. Exactly. And you think about, these conversations probably went on around the, people meeting for coffee in the morning or whatever, but they don't have an audience larger than what's at the coffee table.
That's true.
So now they feel they can, send that message out to more and more people all the time and they're hopeful that it'll go viral or whatever, which, of course, it almost never does.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right there. It can be very deceiving because at the end of the day, your Twitter or your Facebook feed can 99% of the time it's going to reach roughly the same number of people as it would if you were sitting together with the guy in the coffee shop.
That's correct. Yep. So you have to put things in perspective in that way as well. So, all right, everybody, after the break, Joe and I will continue our conversation and maybe even a little discourse about social media. So come on back.
We're hoping the geezer will stop by a little later,
That'd
too.
Be great.
Did you know he drank the first cup of coffee ever?
I did not know this.
Yeah.
Right now, 64.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on Super Talk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
Follow the Guru of Geek at facebook.com/The Tech Ranch or Twitter at Guru of Geek or thetechranch.com. Here again is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we want to thank all the listeners across the country and around the world who join us on the Blueberry Network.
You.
We're also on iTunes.
We're not worthy.
We're really not, are we?
No, we are.
We're also on Tuned In, the Roku, and of course our own app, Radio Pups. All kinds of places that you can join in on the Tech Ranch.
I was at the first parade. I was at the first parade ever.
I was going to give you a proper introduction, Tech Geezer, but you just take the show away. Go ahead.
I resemble that remark. I was at the first Mandan parade ever. We had the Rolling Stones.
That's 134 years ago.
Yeah, a couple of guys with stones, and they were just rolling them. That was the parade. A couple of guys rolling the big stones.
You've been around a long time, haven't you, Tech Geezer?
Yeah.
So what kind of technology?
The 2,000-year-old man.
I've never seen a 2,000-year-old man.
We used to call him the young punk.
Very nice. So can you give us maybe some perspective on the technology that you seen 134 years ago at the parade?
Well, when I was a young pup, we had a thing called a cup.
A cup.
And then somebody had a new invention. It was called thread, and we put them together. We called it a cup and thread.
Nice.
Then that damn Alexander Graham Bell came along and ripped the whole thing off.
Oh, so
I don't like that guy.
So you had your own invention called a cup and thread.
Yeah.
And that later turned into the telephone.
Then somebody else ripped it off. They made this thing called kite string.
Okay. What did they do with kite string?
Well, eventually they made kites. Then we had to figure out what to do with them. Then one day one just kind of blew away in the wind, and we got an idea, you know?
You sound like you're getting a little sleepy over there.
I'm going back to bed.
All right.
He's off in the corner.
Again, everybody.
Don't talk to him anymore. He took his teeth out. He's done for the day.
He hasn't been on the show in a long time.
No. He's been, the summer heat, it kind of gets to him.
Yeah. We need to bring him
And
back
the haze.
occasionally. We'll have to give him some show notes beforehand so he can prep for what we're going to be talking about a little bit, so he can bring some perspective. Maybe
Well, he's got his own notepad. It's like, remember in the Flintstones, they had the little chisel thing where they chisel the notes on a piece of rock?
Was he an advisor for the Flintstones at one time?
I would imagine he was.
Wow,
yes.
amazing. So anyway, that was the Tech Geezer course. Of course, at the half mark show of the show today, we're going to be joining Miss Metaverse, Katie Aquino from the New York Institute of Technology.
What a babe.
She's at the STEAM conference. And
is it like a steam bath?
Well, it's actually it stands for something. Steam. And I should probably look that up. Technology of something, and I need to look that up here. But
something technology of electronic animation of marionettes.
You're not even close. No. It's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Science,
all the subjects I did not do well at in college.
Yes. So they have this conference every year, and basically she's going to be bringing to us the latest and greatest in robotics and 3D printing. So
Very good.
Should be kind of fun. So
sure.
Yeah. So a little bit about the parade that I thought was interesting too. So did you get the alert?
Which alert? Was there like a weather alert?
Well, like a weather alert. Yeah, the emergency alert system was activated on the 3rd. And it was used to let everybody know that you cannot park or use Main Street on the 4th.
Well, I did not get that. Of course, I live in Bismarck.
Right.
Does that make a difference?
It does make a difference.
Okay.
Depends on what cell tower you're on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm in North Bismarck.
It was kind of interesting to see that they used that technology to notify everybody about it. Great. I know when we showed up.
Idea. Excellent idea.
When we showed up the morning of the 4th, I don't believe we towed any vehicles this year, which is, I think, a first ever.
Wow.
So,
that's
I mean,
great.
and the reason for it is that there was this notification that went out. I truly believe this. There was a lot of advanced notification between social media and this technology of using the emergency system to let everybody know that you can't park or drive on Main Street on the 4th of July. So
that's great.
I thought that was fantastic, and nothing would aggravate me more. And I'm just thinking, and I've been on both sides of this, where you have to, it's the morning of an event, and you have to give somebody permission to tow a vehicle away. Right. And I know that
they put the boot on it, yeah.
Well, and they have to, then they have to go get their car later on, whatever. And I know that person probably had no clue that this was going on, didn't see the sign in front of them or whatever.
How many times in your life have you ever gotten up like on a Saturday morning to run an errand and you go, what's going on? Oh, there's a parade?
Yes.
I can't get into town.
Right. It happens a lot.
I've done it.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you're in a town that you're not familiar with, then that happens a lot. So I think that was fantastic that we didn't have to deal with that. And that's because of new technology that we were able to do that. So, I thought that was cool. Of course, Facebook, with one of the cool things with Facebook that I really appreciate, and I think a lot of people do, is the photos.
Yeah.
I spend so much time looking at photos, and I loved it before we had Facebook. People would bring out their photo album and they'd show off, their trips and that type of thing. I'm the exact opposite. I look forward to people when I went to their homes and they brought out the slides and they had the slides going up on the wall.
Yeah, I always kind of enjoyed that too.
I did
if somebody's
too.
been to an interesting place, if somebody's been to I used to work with a girl. She had been to California.
Right.
And she was in this fancy restaurant. She was taking pictures of all the celebrities coming in. Robin Williams sat down right about 2 booths down from her, stuck his head out and kind of waved at them,
So those are cool, to have those things. And what's really cool is that, I don't know if most people know this, but you can actually grab all the photos that you have on Facebook and anything that you've been tagged in. And
right.
This is
kind of a new thing, right?
Well, it's not new, but it's something that a lot of people don't know about.
I think I saw something about it on Facebook over the weekend.
Yeah, so it's an app called Pick and Zip. And you just grab the app. It's a Facebook app itself.
Okay.
So I'm just passing it over to you, Jim. There.
Okay, this I have not seen. The one I've seen is the one where they now pick your 10 most sampled or most clicked on pictures.
Yes.
And they do like a little countdown with it.
So there's a couple things. I'm glad you brought that up and remind me of that. And actually, you have a story you need to tell us yet here too. But yeah, if you want all the photos you've ever posted on Facebook, you can go and grab this app, and it'll download everything for you. Because the thing you have to understand is that a lot of people use Facebook as their archive for photos.
Yeah.
They think that once it's on Facebook, it's there forever. What happens if tomorrow they decide that Facebook isn't making any money and they decide, and I know you don't think that's possible, but it is possible, and what happens if we have something that shuts down the internet for a year or 2 years or whatever? I mean, these type of things are possible, and you probably want to hang on to your family memories.
Well, not to take this into a really grim dystopian direction, but we've talked about this before, I know. Some terrorist group could explode a nuclear bomb. If they could get it high enough over the middle of the country, they could explode a nuclear bomb, and the pulse from that bomb
the electromagnetic
would wipe out the internet.
That's correct.
Everything on the internet, bank accounts, Facebook, everything would be wiped out.
And they're working towards so that doesn't happen. That's why one of the reasons that we have a lot of our electrical and wiring stuff is underground, because ground actually shields that wiring from that. But anything that's exposed.
EMP is called, the electromagnetic pulse.
That's correct, yeah. So you had a story that you wanted to share.
Well, I wanted to say, it's never the stuff that you think will go viral that does.
Okay.
And when I say go viral, I'm speaking relatively relative to your own little world of, 100 or 1,000 friends.
Right. So you post a photo or something, and you're thinking that everybody's going to love this.
People are going to go nuts with this, and they don't.
And
then over the weekend, somebody posted a photo. Remember the end of the movie The Shining, the picture of Jack Nicholson at the ball? It's like says something about the so-and-so ballroom, 1921. They had the old-time music underneath it. And the implication was that it was he was a ghost now, and he was haunting the hotel. Well, that picture with the young Jack Nicholson, I reposted that because I'm a fan of the movie.
Right.
And people went nuts over that. People saying things like, "Oh yeah, I remember that at the end of the movie. He looked so young. How did they do it? Did they Photoshop an old picture of him?" And then people got into conversations about what Stephen King thought of the movie versus what Stanley Kubrick did that Stephen King didn't like, and it led off in a dozen different directions. It was wonderful.
You're right. Sometimes,
and something I just put on there as a lark, mainly for my brother and a couple of friends who were also fans of the movie.
Right. Interesting. And you're right.
You never know.
You never know. You absolutely never know. So, that's pretty cool. And I think a lot of people are always amazed by what goes viral, maybe in their own little world, and what does not.
Yeah.
I know it seems to me that the things that are significant a lot of times don't go viral.
Well, I found that out as a talk host. Same kind of deal. You get run off on a tangent about something heavy and political, and then just in passing you mention, this article here about dog food and blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden people are calling, well, what's that about the dog food?
Right.
I mean, I heard about that, what they're doing with the dogs, blah, blah, blah. You just don't know sometimes.
Yeah, I think, maybe we get so cluttered with all of this national news and all the big things. People don't want...
Sometimes you just got to zig where everybody else is trying to zag.
Exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. So, and, we'll get into a little bit more, well, maybe not anymore today about social media. We'll bring it up another
Katie
time.
Coming up.
Yeah, we do have Katie coming up. So, just go to thetechranch.com, and I will be posting some tips and tricks on social media there. after the show. So just hop on over there, thetechranch.com, and things that we didn't get to today, I'll post up on there so you can see all the cool things that you can do to maybe save your media, to maybe hide from somebody that you maybe don't want them to know that
Very
you're
good
online.
idea.
Those
Yeah,
type
good
of things.
information.
So after the break, everybody, we will have Miss Metaverse Katie Aquino broadcasting from the STEAM conference in New York City. So come on back.
Right now, 64.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
And coming to us live from the old Westbury campus at the New York Institute of Technology, covering the STEAM conference, is our own Miss Metaverse, Katie Aquino. How you doing, Katie?
I'm doing well, Marlo. How are you doing?
I bet you didn't. I'm doing fine, by the way. I bet you didn't know I knew all of this about the Institute of Technology, did you?
Oh, of course.
So are you actually on the Westbury campus?
Yes, we're actually here right now.
Wow.
Students are doing super well. It's a lot of fun. We're learning robots. We got a bunch of awesome robots that the students will be working with, and we also have 3D printers and a bunch of really awesome stuff we'll be using. So it's really exciting.
So why don't you tell everybody about this, what the STEAM conference actually is?
Okay, so STEAM actually is also sometimes called STEM, and it's a type of education that's becoming more and more popular, and it's really, really important now because, you know, students need to learn 21st century workforce skills, and that's what STEM and STEAM are all about. They're about teaching students the things they need to learn as far as our technology, what kind of technology they will be working with in the future, and these type of jobs are in high demand. So STEAM actually stands for it's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And there's a lot of great things that you can learn in these fields, like I was saying before. Robotics, 3D printing, app and web development. These are all things that this nonprofit that I've been working with called We Connect the Dots has been providing. And right now we're based in New York, but we plan to be branching out all across the U.S. soon. So that's great.
And I think a lot of people, you know, when you mentioned STEAM, so science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And
art is the one that
throws everybody, doesn't it?
Stands out from the crowd.
Yeah, and I was wondering about that, but it really doesn't, because when you think about it, a lot of the things that we do and you see nowadays are about design.
Right.
And if you have that mindset of an artist or whatever, you fall right into the same thing as people in math and in science and engineering. So it's a great way to blend all these skill sets together.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I mean, even, you know, I started my working career in film and television, and what's interesting is that, you know, back in the day, let's say, you know, in the 80s and even 90s, right? I mean, before cameras became as great as they are now, everything has changed. You know, back then you were just a filmmaker or just a director, and now in a lot of fields, you have to do it all. You have to do everything. You have to be an editor. You have to know Photoshop. There's a lot of design and a lot of multitasking in all fields now. It's kind of like you have to do it all. That's why STEAM education is great, because you have to know a little bit of everything in this world to get by, it seems.
And I think Jim can probably attest to that, because have you always ran a board?
A control board?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, I've been doing this, I've been in radio since 1977.
Okay.
When I first got in the business, a lot of radio stations were still playing records.
Right.
And continue to do so well into the 80s.
But your description, because you do a lot of digital stuff now too, correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, back in the day, you know, this computer screen you see here with all the commercials laid out and pre-logged for me, you know, it used to be I'd have to come in and do all that myself. We had tape cartridges. Each tape cartridge had a different commercial. I had to go through the log and pull everything out ahead of time for the whole show.
Okay.
And I could take up to an hour right there just getting ready.
Sure.
Now I walk in, it's all laid out for me.
Sure. So technology has certainly impacted, you know, even the radio industry a little bit. So Katie, can you tell us a little bit about maybe some of the cool things you're seeing there?
Well, yes, there's a lot of really cool things. I mean, what's great is that the CEO of We Connect the Dots, Lori Carey, she actually is an executive, former executive at Microsoft. So what was great is a lot of these students are learning Microsoft, Windows, everything. You know, there's a lot of programs that the students are learning. And we'll be teaching them a lot of great things like app and web development, the difference between using, let's say, Squarespace or WordPress and how to build your own website. And also, as far as robotics go, we have a course where we're teaching how to build robots by Trossen Robotics, Trossen Robotics, Trossen Robotics.
Okay.
And, yes, they gave us these HR-0S1 robots, I believe they are. And they're really neat because, you know, a lot of the robots that you see at these STEAM education workshops, usually they're, you know, more, they're usually different kinds, but they look already put together. And these robots, it's just an exoskeleton, so you really get to see how the robots are put together, really get to learn the more technical side of robotics, which is great.
So how old are the students there, Katie?
So most of the students in our programs are between ages 13 and 18, and that's really great, you know, because at this young age, you know, it's helping them kind of, I guess, guide their career path and kind of awaken them to the job market. I mean, how things are changing as far as technology and what's out there. So students are getting kind of a head start before they head off to college as far as, you know, how things are how the workforce is out there.
So do you have any idea how many of these conferences they have every year, and are they across the country?
Yeah, so STEAM education in general, there are a lot of organizations out there, and many of them are different. You know, some high schools have their own types of programs involving STEAM education, and STEAM education is, you know, very broad. I mean, just the other day I was at Costco, and I saw a DVD that was a STEAM education DVD. It was the theme of it. It was called STEAM for Kids, and it had a bunch of cartoons that had those kinds of themes in it. So there is STEAM education all throughout the U.S., and it's available. But We Connect the Dots in general is based on Long Island, New York. But, you know, there are plans to be bringing it out to other states. And as far as conferences and programs that they provide, there are quite a few that they do provide here throughout the year. We have 2 programs this month alone. There's Creating STEAM, which is the one that I'm at currently, and that starts today, and it's running till the 17th. And then there's another one called Creating Ideas. That one's completely focused on the gaming industry, using Unity to develop and create virtual worlds, gaming systems, everything like that, basically game design. And that's the 27th through the 31st this month. So it's really exciting.
And, of course, there's a website you can go to. In fact, both you and I will post it up later with the New York Institute of Technology. They have a page called Creating STEAM at NYIT, featuring We Connect the Dots, and that's kind of where I'm getting the information from as well here. So are the students actually able to program and or create things while they're going through this conference?
Yes, what's great is that students will actually walk away learning new skills. And there's a little bit of everything. So each program, each activity could run, say, 4 or 5 hours. And right now, the students are actually, we're all given Microsoft Surface 3 tablets, and they're all learning how to, you know, boot them up, get all the programs organized, and get Windows 8 on there. And then they're all kind of working through there and learning from there. They're going to be learning a bunch of other skills, you know. And another thing, too, which is really great today, we're discussing digital citizenship, why it's important to be a good digital citizen, right? Because, as we were saying before, digital literacy is super important, and it's really, really important nowadays for students, especially ages 13 to 18, to learn why, you know, you need to be aware of and very conscious of what you put on the web.
So why don't we expand on that just a little bit, because Jim and I were actually talking about social media right before you came on, and you know, the correlation between social media and digital citizenship is important. So expand on that a little bit.
Sure. So we see it a lot in the news, right? A lot of younger people, they end up, you know, something happens and they put it immediately on the web, right? And it happens all the time. the problem is a lot of things can come off really, really wrong, not the way you originally intended to have them as you put them online. And it happens a lot with younger people because, younger people tend to get more excited and they don't know, and they need to be taught, just like how we're all taught, different morals and values growing up. There has to be new sets of morals and values when it comes to how we use the web, what we do with our social media pages, what we put on there, because that will affect whether or not we can get jobs and how people will perceive us, right? So being able to learn how to use social media for your benefit, and be able to put the best, have the best digital citizenship you can, just put the best presence out there for yourself, have it work for you instead of against you. That's really important. And there's a lot of things you could do to make sure that, you are very conscious of it, and it's good to also be aware of what's happening, as far as news stories and what other people are doing. I think from learning through other people's failures and what they did and what they put online and how it affected them, that's very, very big too, because other students will learn what not to do based off of those things.
So do you have any idea, like how many companies or what the percentage is of people that are hiring somebody will review a candidate's social profile before they make a hiring decision? This is a question that I have an answer to, by the way. I'm just curious if you have any idea.
I don't know the exact percentage, but I would say it's super common. I mean, if I were going to a job interview, I would just have to assume that, my employer is going to look me up. And that is so common nowadays because even, let's say you're hiring a babysitter. Everybody looks into other people. People check you out. You want to make sure that someone is who they say they are, or if you're going to bring an employee on, right, you want to make sure that they represent or stand for your values and everything is aligned, right? And it does happen a lot. There are a lot of people who unfortunately, are younger or any age, have photos of them partying it up and drinking and whatever, and they don't realize that this will actually affect them, just like as if you were to tattoo your face to your whole body. Unfortunately, people are judgmental, and they're not just judgmental about your physical appearance, but also your web appearance.
Yep, exactly. Well, the number is 93%. Yep. So the data shows 93% of hiring managers will review a candidate's social profile before making a hiring decision. 93%.
That's a great trivia question.
That is a great trivia question.
Yeah.
But it really puts things into perspective because if you're thinking about going and getting a job, you better make sure.
So the guy who blocked me, do you think they would hold that against me?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. Good. So, all right. After the break, everybody, we will continue our discussion with Miss Metaverse Katie Aquino and STEAM. So come on back.
Right now, 66.
Sean Hannity, weekdays at 2, only on Super Talk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek everywhere he goes. Post your comments or questions at thetechranch.com. Once again, your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And joining us, of course, from New York, Miss Metaverse Katie Aquino from the STEAM conference. And we were just talking about digital citizenship and social media. And we had just stated that 93% of hiring managers will review a candidate's social profile before making a hiring decision. So, Katie, what do you think is the number one reason why people wouldn't hire you because of social media? I mean, about what you have posted.
Well, I think that, there's a lot of horrible things you could possibly put out there on the web. I mean, there's people that will, it really depends. I mean, you could say something that's derogatory towards somebody, or you can even get into an argument, even if you're working for a company, and I've seen this happen a lot, where employees will get into a debate over Twitter, and it didn't even say anything, like, let's say, that we would consider really horrible, but because they, even have the company they work for listed as, the company that they work at, it's in their Twitter profile, right? But if they end up in a debate and they end up saying something, that can really affect their job. And there's a lot of people who have been let go. And that's why it's really important. And you're talking about social media tips. That's why, let's say if you're using Twitter and you work for a company, make sure that you list in your Twitter bio, let's say RT does not equal endorsement. And that means that if you're retweeting something, right, it doesn't mean that you necessarily are saying that you agree with it.
Right.
You can cover a lot of ground by doing things like that, or saying that opinions are my own and not my company's.
Right. And I think, if you're, I won't say we encourage people to use social media at work. The one thing I like about social media at work is that the phone doesn't ring as much for personal phone calls. Mm-hmm. So they're using it as a communication tool at work. And I'm okay with that. I think it's more productive that way, as long as they're not sitting there for a half hour reading all the Facebook stuff that's coming across their timeline. But with that said, they had better not be stating something like it's a really boring day at work, or we just had this customer that came in and I didn't get along with them. And we've had situations like that. And you just, you have to be somewhat tactful about it, because the thing is if you're going to move on from my company in the future, and if you're on Facebook, talking about your customers, or you're on Twitter talking about the customers of the company you're with, what do you think the person that you're going to go to work for now is going to be thinking you're going to be doing as well? So
exactly.
Yeah. So you have to really be careful about what you're putting on there. And number one thing, by the way, that recruiters look at as a strong turnoff is illegal drugs. If you mention that you're a user of illegal drugs, 83%.
Oh man, I was getting stoned over the weekend, that kind of thing.
But what's funny about that is that 2% of hiring managers think it's positive.
Really?
So it all depends on the job you're going for, I suppose.
I guess if you're going to work for High Times Magazine. Yeah.
Yeah, you might be okay with that. That's right. 44% saw posts about alcohol as concerning. Sexual posts, of course, is number 2 at 70%. We'll count that against you. And then the use of grammar. 66% of hiring managers say they would hold poor spelling and grammar against candidates. So
that stuff drives me up the wall.
Well, and me too. And I'm not the world's best speller by any means, which is you and I talked about this before, which is why you have spell check. Mm-hmm. Even Facebook has it built in.
But I make a conscientious effort to at least try to make things look like they're put together.
Grammatically correct.
Yeah.
Even if you're in a hurry, you have to think things through a little bit. And sometimes I get in a little too much of a hurry, and the biggest mistake that I make is I don't reread my stuff.
Yeah.
I'll type it out and then push publish, and then it just goes out to the masses. And then I look at it and I'm like, what? I forgot half of a sentence or something. In there,
my issue is I get typing too fast and I start getting a little dyslexic with my spelling.
Sure. Yep. So it happens. So people need to really think and maybe slow down a little bit before they post, because what you're posting now can affect you 5 years from now.
Yeah.
So you just got to think about that.
Come back and haunt you.
Yes. All right, Katie, let's get back to STEAM. So have you ever attended a STEAM conference before?
Yes. I mean, I have in the past. I've actually been to quite a few, and it is great. I mean, it's not always for students between ages 13 and 18. There's all different age groups, and I also actually did back one project on Indiegogo, which was a STEAM educational. It was a plush toy that you can put your iPhone into, and you can actually create. It creates a story. There's like a story surrounding a character called Laika.
Okay.
It's called Laika's Adventure, and it's all STEAM-based, and it's much younger kids. But, it's great. There's a lot of different things out there you can learn and check out.
So have you ever seen any products coming out of a STEAM conference or something that made it to mainstream, or things that you thought of? I mean, is that the kind of collaboration that goes on with these students? Is that it almost becomes a think tank in sorts, or they start developing ideas and products?
Well, it seems more like these STEAM programs are more just to educate about the STEAM type of It's more about education. It's more about it's more like workshops. But I have been seeing some products coming out that are STEAM themed. Like I was saying before, there was new DVDs you could buy that teach your kids about STEAM education and why it's important. And I'm sure there will be more. It is still rather new. I mean, I'd say that within the last 5 years, STEAM education has been growing significantly, and I do believe it's going to become even more popular in the future.
So what kind of careers are you? I'm kind of reading through the STEAM discussion here as we're talking as well. So you combine these things, and I'm reading about engineers doing fascinating work. They create artificial limbs and organs, but build sleek new cell phones, help a village filter its water. So the combination of arts and technology really come into play there.
Right. I mean, there are, when you start researching STEAM education or STEM education and the types of jobs that are associated with it, you'll find a bunch of different themes, a lot of different types of, I guess, college type programs you can go into, afterwards. But really, to summarize it, a lot of it is technology based. And a lot of the jobs that you can go into could be anything from, let's say, an app designer and developer. You could, like I was mentioning before, you could go on to create video games and work with a big video game company. And you could also work in a lot of different fields, really. Biotech is another huge one as well. 3D printing, some students that learn 3D printing end up opening up their own shops and have their own 3D printing shops. So it's really great because it helps you fine-tune what you're actually interested in. And I think that's something that, I know I didn't have when I was in high school. We didn't have any programs that really directly helped us see what the job market would be like in the future or what kind of technology there was to get into. And who would have known? Who would have known? I mean, if I had this type of education when I was in high school, maybe I'd end up doing something else, be a little bit more focused. Maybe I'd just be into biotech or just be into, maybe I'd be a futurist even earlier in life, So things like this happen.
So are more and more high schools across the country integrating STEAM into, their education system?
Yes, but slowly. It's great. We Connect the Dots is doing a great thing because a lot of school systems are stuck. They're stuck in a certain kind of way of educating. And like the CEO, Lori Carey of We Connect the Dots, she says that, we have to disrupt the educational system. It's time. It's really important because a lot of these schools are teaching in a way that's not beneficial to the students. STEAM education is great. What We Connect the Dots is great because the way they're teaching isn't like you're finding in schools. In schools nowadays, and especially when I was in high school too, it was all about, reading the book. We're all going to read the book. We're going to read the book out loud, and then we're going to read more on the chalkboard. How are you supposed to learn like that? And what's great about this type of education is because you're hands-on and it's visual learning. And being into visual learning is huge. Students are actually learning. They're actually going to learn and go home and talk about and be interested in these topics, and that's the difference.
Yeah, and I know that the hands-on approach is far superior to probably anything else that we can do. I could probably give you hundreds of case studies and discussions with teachers or whatever. Even in our own local system here, where they're adding more and more iPads on an annual basis, and it seems like the students that have those iPads excel quicker than the students that don't. They like that approach. They like to be able to, there's some ownership to them there. They have the ability to maybe add an app or two or whatever to it and create their own little learning environment, so to speak. It really is kind of cool how that works. Absolutely.
And another thing too is the digital divide. And that's another huge thing that's going on. And We Connect the Dots is doing that as well. They are working towards being able to provide laptops and mobile devices to students who cannot afford it, because that's a huge problem. I mean, the digital divide, for those who don't know what that is there is a significant amount of students who are being left behind because everything is being focused on the web, everything is going digital, everything is becoming digitized, and it's happening super quick. So those students who cannot afford internet, who cannot afford to have mobile devices, who can't afford to be online, they are going to be left behind. And that's why these organizations are extremely important, because while many of us are used to having our laptop and our cell phone, and everything we need, we can go out and buy, but there's a lot of students and families who just simply cannot afford it, and they will not have the same opportunities as students who can.
Very, very interesting. All right, Katie, we really appreciate you broadcasting live from the STEAM conference at the New York Institute of Technology. Thanks again, Katie. Jim, pleasure as always. You and I, of course, need to go get some rest now after our crazy 4th of July weekend.
Maybe we can crawl up in the corner with the geezer.
Let's not paint that visual. Anyway, all right, everybody, we'll see you again next week.
You've been listening to The Tech Ranch, live and local on Super Talk 1270. Keep ahead of the trends. Tune in every Monday morning at 11 a.m. for The Tech Ranch. Exclusively here on Super Talk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
ABC News, Super Talk 1270. Accurate news, stimulating talk. This is KLXX AM, Mandan, Bismarck.